Alright guys, so as you know, we have a test coming up this week, so I thought I'd provide an early Chapter 6 review video for you guys. So right now we're going to go over Section 6.1, Understanding Percents. We're going to write a ratio and a percent for the shaded area. So first we have to figure out how many boxes or how many squares are in this figure totally. Well, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 surface here. So if we multiply 4 by 5, we get 20. So there's 20 total squares. So we know we're going to have 20 as our bottom number in our ratio. Now we just count how many squares are there that are shaded. Well, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shaded squares. So my ratio is 6 over 20, or 6 to 20. Now to write that as a percent, I need to have a 100 on the bottom because a percent is per 100. So I set 6 over 20 equal to something over 100. And notice 20 times 5 gives me 100. So all I have to do is take 6 times 5. This is equivalent fractions, and we get 30. So my percent is 30%. Okay, let's go on to section 6.2. This is percents, fractions, and decimals. You went over this with Mrs. Witchell. So to change a fraction to a percent, we have to set the fraction equal to x over 100 and solve, just like what we did up here. Okay. To change from percent to decimal, we have to move the decimal left. That's important. We move it to the left 2 times. And to change from a decimal to a fraction, we have to change the decimal to a percent first, and then write it over 100 and simplify. So, for example, let's start over here. We need to change 3/4 to a percent. Well, I'm changing a fraction to a percent, so I have to set it equal to x over 100 and solve. So I set my fraction equal to x over 100. You could cross multiply, or we're just going to use equivalent fractions, because 4 times 25 gives me 100, so I just need to take 3 times 25, gives me x equals 75, looking for a percent, so it's 75%. Okay? Number 2, we have to change 4% to a decimal. Okay, to change a percent to a decimal, we just move the decimal to the left 2 times. So here's my 4. I'm just going to move my decimal over 2 times. So here's 1, 2. My decimal is now here. So that means I have to add a 0. And so my 4% as a decimal is 0.04. Okay? I'll circle this one so that we know. Now, I want to write 0.2 as a fraction, or 2/10 as a fraction. So, changing from a decimal to a fraction, first I need to change it to a percent. To change a decimal to a percent, we just do the opposite of changing a percent to a decimal. So we're going to move to the right 2 spots. 1, 2. So my percent is 20%. Now I just have to write that over 100. So I'm going to put 20 on top of 100 here and reduce it. I can reduce by 10 by crossing off these zeros, and then I can reduce by 2. So I get divide by 2 on top, I get 1, divide by 2 on the bottom, and I get 5. So 20% is the same as 1/5. Okay? Let's go on to section 6.3, which is percents greater than 100% or less than 1%. This isn't going to be much different from section 6.2. Our numbers are just going to look a little bit different. So we want to write 130% as a decimal and a fraction. So as a decimal, all we have to do, again, we're changing from percent to decimal. Let's look back here, percent to decimal. Move decimal left 2 times. So I'm going to move my decimal to the left 2 times. So here's once, twice. So as a decimal, it's 1.3. Okay? Now I want to make that into a fraction. All I'm going to do, once again, I want to change from percent to a fraction. Let's see here. to change from percent to a fraction, I just put my number. So remember, percent is per 100. So this is going to be 130 over 100. Okay? And now I just have to reduce that. So I can divide by 10 and I get 13 over 10, which is the same thing. If you do your long division, it's going to be the same thing as 1 3/10. What's another way that we learned? We learned that we can just, if it's bigger than 100, we can take the first number, which is 1 in this case, and write that down as our big number in our mixed number, and then put the rest of it, so in this case we have 30 over 100. So 1 and 30 over 100, which is equal to 1, and if we divide by 10, 3/10. So either way, we get the same answer. All right, now, so that's for a percent greater than 100. Now for a percent less than 1, we want to write the fraction 3 over 500 as a percent. Well, again, to change from a fraction to a percent, I have that over here, fraction to a percent, we need to set the fraction equal to x over 100 and solve. So I'm going to set this fraction equal to x over 100 and solve. Once again, you could cross multiply, that's totally fine. Or if you notice it's equivalent fractions, that's going to be a little bit easier. So I noticed that 100 times 5 gives, I meant to say 500 divided by 5 gives me 100. So I'm going to take 3 and divide by 5 to get x. So all I have to do is do some math off to the side, some long division. So I'm going to take 3 divided by 5. Well, 5 can't go into 3, so I'm going to add a 0, which means I add a decimal. Okay. Oops. That doesn't look right. Add a 0, which means I add a decimal. 5 goes into 30 6 times. 6 times 5 gives me 30. Subtract, I get 0. So my answer for this one is 0.6%. That's less than 1%, which makes sense. You only got 3 out of 500 questions right on a test. You're going to get a really small percent. Not a very good grade. Okay, let's go on to section 6.4 and 6.5, which is solving percent problems. This is when I introduced the is over of equals percent over 100. So let's just jump right in. We've been doing this for a while. What percent of 230 is 23? If I look here, my of is right next to 230. 230 comes right after of, so that's going to go in the of spot. Okay? My is right next to 23, so that's going to go in my is spot. So I'm trying to find my percent. So I put an x there. Now I'm going to simplify this fraction first, which I can divide by 23, and I get 1 over 10. And then I can use equivalent fractions, because 10 times 10 gives me 100, so I just take 1 times 10, and I get 10%, or x equals 10. Okay? Not too bad on that one. What is 1% of 500? Now, this one you could use mental math, move your decimal in 2 times, or we can use like what we've been doing, this formula here. So of 500, I'm going to put the 500 in my of spot. My percent, I have 1%. If it's a percent, it has to go in my percent spot, can't go anywhere else. Even though is right in front of it, it's a percent, it has to go in my percent spot. Now I can solve it using equivalent fractions or cross multiplying. So let's do an example using cross multiplying. So I take x times 100 and I get 100x equals 500 times 1, which is 500. Now I need to divide by 100 on both sides to solve for x. I get x equals, if you notice here, our zeros cancel. We're left with 5 over 1, which is just 5. So 1% of 500 is 5. There you go. Now, 21 is 84% of what number? In this case, 21 is right next to my is, so that's going to go in my is spot. I don't know my of. It says of what number. I don't know what that number is, so I'm going to put X there, M, or whatever you want. And 84 is my percent. Even though is right in front of it and of is after it, it has a percent sign, so it has to go in my percent spot. Okay? And now I can solve. You can cross multiply, or I'm going to choose to reduce first and see what I get. So if I take 84 divided by 2, or let's take it divided by 4, I'm going to get 21. And if I divide by 100 by 4, I get 25. Well, notice 21 times 1 equals 21, okay? So I just take 24 times 1, and I get X equals 24. So my of is 24. Alright, hopefully that helps you out when you're working on your review, and I'll wish you the best of luck on your test.